This is a series of 100 films about Japanese foods that I've eaten, and this is a film about a long sleepless night and how clam soup got me through it. Shellfish is a big part of Japanese cuisine, and scallops, they're gigantic, giant raw scallops on a bowl of rice. What could be tastier? Scallops are called HOTATE in Japanese, and they're fantastic at yakiniku. You see, yakiniku is where you cook your own meat on a grill in the table, a version of Korean barbecue. And you can also order scallops to grill, and they make a great break from constant plates of beef tongue and other things, even if it is high quality meat. Washoku. Japan also has several kinds of clams. Clams are quite popular, especially as sushi. Surf clam is the main one you're going to notice. But I want to talk today about soup. Soup is not something I had a very good experience with as a child because I always remember it being in a can from Campbell's and it was awful and it was incredibly salty. Later on, when I worked in the film industry, I learned that soup is an excellent way to avoid eating calories. So yeah, you can go the whole 9 yards, buy the bones and make your own stock and everything. Washoku. In Japan, I didn't eat much soup, and it's usually just a part of a set meal like an appetizer. However, my main memories of soup is the first day I lived in Japan. I had arrived late the night before on a plane that had been very delayed from Detroit. And I had been given a place to live by my company with other co-worker roommates in a far-flung suburb of Tokyo called Chigasaki, a beautiful place on the Pacific coast with a Hawaiian theme. That day, I woke up and marveled, wow, I'm in the biggest city in the world. I need to visit the sights of Tokyo. So I got on the train, the Shonan Shinjuku line, for an hour and to wander around Tokyo and fight jet lag. I ended up at the Golden Guy, a series of very small bars which fit 2 or 3 people at most. That evening I drank at an establishment with a Matthew Barney Cremaster theme, owned by a psychologist. But my problem was that Chigasaki is probably one of the farthest Tokyo suburbs. Heading southwest, there's Tokyo, then after that, Kawasaki, then Yokohama, then Kamakura, the old capital. And then finally, you arrive in Shonan, the area by the beach where Chigasaki is located. However, if you miss the last train at 11:20, you're not getting home for the night unless you want to pay $250 for a taxi cab. And I missed the last train home. I took the Yamanote line and got off at Osaki Station, and I had no idea what I was going to do. Dread filled my stomach, so I went to a sushi restaurant, and it was one of those rotating sushi places. At midnight, it was just businessmen drinking and smoking. The actual conveyor belt had shut down, and they were only making sushi by hand. The waiter came over. I said, I'll have soup, because it was the only thing I could read on the menu. And I didn't know how to order anything. It was terrifying. And the guy serving me couldn't speak any English, not a word, so he started to draw what kind of soup I wanted to have. And he's like, do you want clam or oysters? And I'm just like, yes. And that was my memory of clam soup. It was the only thing I knew how to order at midnight, my first full day in Japan. And later that night, I just wandered the streets of Shibuya where lots of women grabbed at me. I don't know why they were so eager, but that's the way it is. And I ended up sitting in a McDonald's till the first train at around 7 o'clock. Finally, I got back to Chigasaki at 8 o'clock in the morning, and watching the morning commuters, I noticed there was at least half a dozen foreign people living there as well, which was interesting. That's when you discover when you wander the streets for an hour, because I couldn't find my house. And that is the story of my first day in Japan and its connection to clam soup. The word of the day. The word of the day is washoku. It means Japanese food in Japanese. So if you're about to pay for an overpriced steak dinner, you can point to the meat and ask washoku, just to make sure you're not paying for something from Australia. So if you want to remember this word, feel free to watch this video 10 more times and repeat along with me, or at least that's what I do. Next time. So that's it until next time, when we snack like a Japanese grandmother. So until then, sayonara.